Radio Shropshire
with Ryan Kennedy.
So it's this show's mission to try and find as many different things that are made right here in Shropshire. It's a fairly straightforward mission, really, because there are so many products that we've been learning about since started doing Made in Shropshire. So, been along to meet June Campbell and find out all about Ironbridge soap on the trail of something else that is made right in the county. So met up with June in the back room of her home, which, as she explained, is exactly where she makes all of her products.
Yes, I call it my workshop. And hopefully one day we will move out of the workshop, but at the moment this is where it's all happening.
Everything has to start somewhere, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and actually I've got everything I need here, in the sense of I've got easy access to, to get to the garden, and because I'm making soap and it's quite a fragrant operation, then I do need fresh air at regular intervals, so you need good ventilation, so that's really important.
That is something I noticed as soon as I walked in here. You get hit by this. Well, it's an amazing smell, yeah.
Well, I have to admit, because I'm exposed to it pretty much all the time, when I first come in, I can smell it, but after a while, I just don't notice it. So I have to go again. I have to make sure that I've got lots of ventilation, so I can make sure I can check when I'm making up fragrances that actually I'm making something up that it's what I think it should be in my head.
Do you have to go and breathe something really unpleasant, like go and find a field of manure and then come back?
No. It's not that bad at all. There's an old aromatherapist trick, which is that if you want to clear your nose, you just breathe into your sleeve. So just sniff. And then you actually come back to a fragrance and you can smell it. I learned that many years ago when I did my basic training.
See, tricks of the trade.
Absolutely.
You mentioned aromatherapy, because that kind of led you to this, didn't it? How did you get started?
Oh, well, many years ago, I was in marketing. I worked for BT in London, and I was in their marketing department, and I used to love having massages. And somebody bought me for a birthday present a weekend aromatherapy course. And it was the first time I come across essential oils and different fragrance oils, and also actual massage in a sense of how to work with the body. And I really loved it. And over time, it was a hobby, and it grew, and I did more and more of it. And finally, I was confident enough to leave my day job and set up in private practice, which, as I say, is about 15 years ago now.
Was that quite daunting, though, at the time?
I was very fortunate in the sense of I was able to work part-time for a while and gradually build up a client base. And I had a private client base, and then I started to work with a business partner, and we pulled together a business that did corporate massage. So we went into offices, and we were doing 20-minute massages around all these sort of .coms and advertising agencies. And it was a real fun job. But what I really enjoyed in the background was making up lotions and oils and massage oils, and in my very spare time actually making up soap. In fact, the first round of soap I did was for client Christmas presents. And I always enjoyed doing it, but I never had space to do it in London all the time. So a couple of years ago, actually it was about 18 months ago now, I moved up to Shropshire, because that's where my parents had lived, and where my mum still does live. And I thought this is a really good opportunity to start to focus on the soap. So I did.
So it was Shropshire that kind of gave you the kick-start to get producing it in the first place?
Well, absolutely, because, as you said, this house, there is room here to store what I need to store, have the ventilation. You can't really do that in a one-bedroom flat in London. So, I had the space to do it, and also the time to focus on making up recipes and seeing what worked for me. Because it's still very new. The website was only launched in July, and it's taken a good sort of 6 months to get the preparation together, to get my recipes organised. And when you're making soap or any sort of product that has to go on the skin, then there's a lot of legal requirements. You have to get your recipes signed off by a toxicologist, in effect. You've got to make sure you've got your insurance in place, and you really need to know what you're doing, because obviously these are products that people are putting on their skin. So, all of that took quite a while to get sorted out before I even got out of the door with, exciting and fun things like, what does the logo look like? And how am I going to package this, and who's going to sell it for me? So, yes, it's been a while.
It's been a long process.
It has.
You can hear more about the actual process that you go through in order to make soap fairly soon. It's interesting hearing June refer to it as recipes. Because if you think about it, you can get all manner of different flavoured soaps these days. So is there any limitation as well to the flavours that you can include in soap? What do you fancy rubbing all over yourself in a soap-type way? You can hear more on Made in Shropshire soon. Talking more soap shortly as part of Made in Shropshire at the Ironbridge Soap Company in the back room at June's house there, which just smells fantastic. I need to point out that the rest of the house also did smell pretty good, but it just hit you when you got into this back room where all the soap is made and where it's all stored as well. So more from that on the way in a couple of minutes. Finding out about as many different things that are made in the county as possible in Made in Shropshire. And it's a nice, fresh smelling Made in Shropshire today because we're talking soap at the Ironbridge Soap Company in Madeley. Speaking to June Campbell, and I asked her how much work goes into making one bar of soap.
Well, a basic bar of soap is actually, it's made by a process called saponification. It sounds really complicated, doesn't it?
That sounds highly technical, yeah.
What actually I do is, what you need some oils. So I use coconut oil, I use shea butter, I use palm oil. And that acts as almost as an acid. And then you need an alkali, which is lye or caustic soda. And that's the fun part of making soap, because you have to make this lye solution up, which is all sort of steaming and foam coming off the top. And in very careful quantities, at exactly the right temperature, you combine the two. And there's a reaction. And what happens is the reaction takes place and the lye solution completely dissipates. But what you do get is this sort of gloopy, syrupy solution, which you stir frantically until gradually you start to feel it actually coming together and slowly solidifying, at which point you have to rush to a mould, you pour it, you leave it overnight, and overnight it hardens. I take it out of the mould the following day. I slice it up in what looks like a giant bacon slicer, and I'm pointing to that as we speak, which is on the top shelf.
I can see that, yes.
Slice it into some regular shapes, and then you get a series of bars like I've got here, and I just leave those. That's right. They've actually got wrappings on, but here's some what I call naked soap.
Oh yes.
Just a plain, ordinary bar. And that's been...
It's a bit like a block of cheese.
Exactly. Yeah. Very similar texture.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't use colouring, and I try not to use too many exciting... the fragrances that I use are essential oils or really nice fragrance oils. So there's not, other than the basic oils, I don't like a lot of stuff in my soap. So it's really moisturising and it smells gorgeous, but there's kind of no nasties in there. And that sits there for 28 days while any excess water evaporates. And then after that, I can wrap it up and it's good to go.
That's quite a long process then, really, isn't it?
It is. I mean, yes, it is. I mean, that's half the fun. I mean, I'm kind of reaching for some different soaps so you can try to sniff some different ones. I've got about 6 different ones here.
See, I noticed the difference just between that block of cheese I was smelling and this one.
Yes.
Which is wrapped up. So what's this then?
It's my spicy geranium, which is an essential oil blend. It's got geranium in there, it's got sandalwood, it's got ylang-ylang, and it's got patchouli oil in it, and it's that's one of my old ones that I used to do for my clients back in the Feel Good days, and it was always a popular blend back then.
It's a really nice scent.
It's great, that one.
It's very fresh.
It varies, and also what you find are different people can smell different things. So for some people, a particular fragrance will just pass them by completely because they don't seem to have those receptors, because the sense of smell is a really deep and quite primitive part of the brain. But some people have got, will smell rose from 50 feet and love it. Others will pick up a smell and really, not like it or have an issue with it. So we all react to smell in a very individual way. I'm supposed to thank heaven for that, really.
That's good for you.
Well, exactly, because if we all like the same thing, it would be very, very dull. So, I've got about 7 or 8 different fragrances here that I'm playing with at the moment, which, people can try different ones. So I do things like a blackberry and basil, or a lime, basil and mandarin.
That's a bit unusual, isn't it, for soap?
It's quite fun. Again, it's quite fresh, it's quite fruity. So yes, it seems to be quite popular.
How far can you push it then with the flavours?
You could go. I've heard of some real wacky stuff. I'm not sure. Sometimes with fragrances, people say, there's some things that sound like a great idea, coffee and banana, or somebody somewhere will probably like it. But if you're going to make a lot of it and have it sitting on a shelf. I prefer something that people like and want to buy. I mean, I'm doing a fair few kind of, market stalls at the moment, and it's lovely to have fragrances people come up and try and they really like. So, no, I don't really want to send them reeling off in horror. I mean, I know some of the kind of catering, like the Heston Blumenthal curry ice cream and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't have no plans to.
There won't be a bacon and eggs flavoured soap.
No, that's right.
Because that's the thing, these things smell great, but you probably wouldn't want to smell like them on your skin, would you?
And again, some fragrances that you think, oh, that's quite nice, but then you've got to think, well, as you say, you're going to be walking around with it all day.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm sure, I know personally from having bought perfume and colognes in shops, you think something smells fabulous for about 30 seconds or even a couple of minutes, but, by 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you're really over it. So, a lot of these have been tested on friends, family, passers-by. So, I know I've got fragrances here that people are going to like.
See, in theory, yeah. Oh, chocolate soap. That sounds really nice, doesn't it? Yeah, sniff it. Do you want to walk around smelling like that all day, though? Really? I suppose there are worse things that you could smell of, and that's when you don't use soap at all, really, isn't it? Anyway, more from Ironbridge Soap Company on Made in Shropshire, and about the way that June carefully tests the products as well. More soap on the way. Soap was taxed back during the Napoleonic Wars. The government thought, that's a bit of a luxury, isn't it? Yeah, I can make some money out of this. And tax inspectors would lock up soap boiling pans to stop illegal production at night. It's interesting, but it's been around for about 2,000 years or so, and there is June making soap at the back of her house in Madeley on Made in Shropshire. You can hear more about that after 1 o'clock today afternoon to you. It's Ryan in for Colin, and it is, of course, Wednesday, which means it's Made in Shropshire Day. It's this show's mission to find as many different products that are made in the county and find out all about them. And today, I've done that with soap. So gone along to Ironbridge Soap Company in Madeley to have a chat to June Campbell, who makes soaps in her little back room there. All manner of soaps. She does draw the line at certain flavours, though, so I think an onion-flavoured soap probably wouldn't go down very well, because as I was just chatting to June about, it may sound nice in theory, but would you want to walk around smelling of that all day? Yeah, it's that sort of thing. Not necessarily onions, but nicer things like chocolate, banana, coffee, those sorts of things. So anyway, chatting to June about her soaps, and she's very careful about what goes into her products and how they're tested.
You have to be, again, if you look at what's on the label for a product that contains essential oils, it's quite long, because there are chemicals in even a natural essential oil, and for some people they might have a reaction against that essential oil. So actually, even though something's a natural product, it could cause more of a reaction than a fragrance oil, which has been around for a long time. As I say, all of my products, they've been pretty well tested. So, and occasionally I've had people coming up saying, okay, I've got eczema, or I've got slightly sensitive skin, and I'm actually working on a soap that's not got anything in it and no oil in it or no fragrance in it at all, for those people.
We mentioned that it is it takes a while for the process to go through, and you have to leave it for so long. What sort of impact does that have on your business with regards to planning? How much to make? Christmas is coming up, for instance.
Yes, as this is my first Christmas, I kind of oscillate between blind panic and thinking I'm going to have to make a lot and everybody's going to buy some, and I need to have racks and racks of product ready, and it's Christmas and nobody's going to buy my product and I'll have too much of it here, because I don't want to over-manufacture, I don't want to over-make and then have lots of it standing around, because these are fresh products. They keep for up to a year, but it's still, I don't want to have lots of soaps sitting around that I'm not using.
You don't want to be selling this year's soaps next year,
and
because they didn't sell this year.
Exactly, and I wouldn't do that. So it's getting that balance right, particularly, as I say, this is my first Christmas, so I'm really not sure how much I'm going to need. So I'm making soap for Christmas as we speak, and then once it's made, it's made. The liquid soaps and the lotions, I've got a bit more flexibility there, because I've got some of the base product made up for me, and then I simply add the fragrances or the essential oils as I need to. But as I say, the solid soap, that's got my 28 days, and there's no rushing your soap.
That's the bit that you make by hand.
Absolutely, that's the end-to-end process, and as I say, it takes 28 days, and there's not really too much shifting that for me.
So you just got to see how it goes, and maybe friends and family will be getting nothing but soap, and a lot of it this year.
Well, that's my downside. When I outlined my business plan, I thought, I've got Christmas presents now. If this doesn't work, I've got Christmas presents for about the next 20-odd years. but fortunately, I seem to be able to sell almost everything that I made, so I'm quite pleased about that. And one thing I should say is that I've had a lot of support in the area. I mean, one of the great things about doing business around here has been, people like the Enterprise Hub at Telford, Faye Easton over there. She's been really encouraging about what I'm doing, and she's put my soaps into all of the loos over there. And I really appreciate that.
That's brilliant, isn't it? That you get that head start. But there's so many businesses doing this sort of, that sort of thing, and everyone likes to encourage one another.
Yes, and I think this is a really encouraging environment up here. We were speaking earlier about Made in Shropshire, which is a group that runs markets around in Shrewsbury and in Ludlow. And, they do some great work, and I'm hopefully joining their market soon. And as I say, I've had a lot of support, from the local area, which I think as someone who's moved into the area and set up, I think has been really encouraging.
So what's next then? Where are you going to take it next?
Well, at the moment, I'm taking it into, the soaps are at Woodlight Gifts at Ironbridge. So Katie there, she's taken them. So we're talking about, packs to put together for Christmas. And there's another gift shop that's opening over in Broseley that are looking to take on the soaps. I didn't really expect to be moving into shops. But there's been a lot of interest in what I'm doing. And also the other area where there's a certain amount of interest is gift soaps in hotels and B&Bs, of which, as you know, there are a lot in the area. Mm. So I'm talking to a few people about that. So, yes, there's some kind of different exciting ways to take this.
So it's interesting to see what happens next, where you go, where the Ironbridge Soap Company is going to end up.
I think so. I mean, I think it will reach a point quite soon where I do need some help, in the sense of there's a limit to what you can do on your own. I'm very keen to set this up, if I can, as a social enterprise, because I think people need work. And once I actually move out of the workshop, then I think I'll need someone to help me to get the products out on time and to manage the whole thing. So yes, I think it could be quite exciting.
Well, thank you so much for showing me around today.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
I'm enjoying all the smell. I'm going to go back to sniffing things now. Sniffing the soap only. That's all I was sniffing while I was there. Thanks very much to June for showing me around the Ironbridge Soap Company on Made in Shropshire this afternoon.